hip rotation range of motion assessment is so crucial. Our access point from where we move from is our hips. We want our hips to have good mobility, whether we're squatting, whether we're bending down and picking something up or picking up a baby. We want to move from our hips so that our low back isn't taking on all the tension, nor our knees. And what's crucial in order to get this hip rotation and be able to bend forward or squat low and get those knees up towards your body is that we need some space within that joint. So a lot of times too, if you're working your hips and you're noticing maybe some tension, maybe some pain, maybe some irritation, some tendonitis, or maybe you feel some catching and some pinching, it's probably because we're not opening up the space within the joint very well. So getting and assessing this hip rotation is key in order to start not only improving strength and stability around those hips, but to take off tension from the back of the knees. So let's see how it's going. Now, I love sitting on the ground to do this one in a hip 90-90, which is really like an exercise, but we're just doing a test to kind of see what's happening. Now, if you can, get on the floor with me. If this is a little too difficult right now, you can also be sitting on your bed and test it that way. You will have a little bit more give from the bed, so it's harder to really see what's happening. But if this is where you're going to be testing, that's okay. The other thing that you can do, so especially if it's hard to kind of sit in like a cross-legged position or get down to the floor, is I love to stack some pillows. So sitting on some pillows and just raising the bottom, maybe not as high as a stool, but some pillows, some blankets, whatever you need to do to kind of raise your bottom, you can also do that. So pause the video, grab those things real quick if you need anything. Otherwise, we're going to go right into your 90-90 position. So we're going to bring the legs out in front of you and then just drop to a side. So with this here, I'm able to test both external rotation and internal rotation of my hip joint. Okay. Now, again, you could be bottom raised up a little bit higher. That's okay. So, and what that does too, especially if you're really tight and restricted, it takes pressure off of the knees. Okay. So if you're feeling any knee tension, you might want to lift your bottom and grab some pillows or towels and stack them underneath your bottom. So now what I want to see is we want to try to create 90 degrees in the front leg. So from your upper leg to your lower leg, can you get 90 degrees? Between your legs, 90 degrees. So really just like those flat corners. So you don't want the knee in, that wouldn't be 90 degrees. And we don't want the leg out, that would be too open. So kind of see where your leg is, bring it in. And then same with the back now. I don't want the knee bent in too much. I want this out and I want it about 90 degrees. So trying to see, okay, 90, 90, 90. Now I'm in this position. Now if I turn toward my front leg, not moving or moving my chest, just turning toward it, can I get my knee flat? Now, what you see on me is that my knee is popping off the ground, even if I turn toward it. So that means I have a little bit of restriction probably in this hip external rotation. This is really necessary if I want to squat lower, if I want to open up, if I want to get some good booty action as I'm trying to do my workouts and connect my brain muscle connection to my glutes, well, then I want to have good external rotation. It's also going to help what's happening tension-wise at the knee. So hip external rotation, this is your quick test. If your knee is falling down to the floor, you're solid. You probably don't need to work on it as much. Now I rotate towards you. As I rotate towards you, this kind of drops my bottom toward the ground. Now for me, I can basically barely get my fingers underneath my bum. My bum is almost toward the ground. I do feel a little bit of tension and pressure, but nothing at my knee, and I can almost sit on the ground. If you are like really far away and this is like, ooh, that's really tight, I can't even sit up, or I need to use my arms to balance, or I feel a lot of pressure in my knee, you probably have a little bit of restriction around this hip internal rotation. Okay. So now we assessed external rotation, internal rotation of one leg. Now let's test the other side. So again, coming into that 90-90, I want to bring that leg up. So 90 degrees in my front leg, 90 degrees between my legs, 90 degrees. So situate yourself as you need. Okay. So now while I'm sitting here, I'm going to turn toward this leg. Okay. What's happening is my knee popping off, and yes, it is. So again, I have maybe some limited restriction in this hip external rotation. As I turn towards you, What's happening in my back? And now I have a lot more space. Now I could get my hand completely underneath my bottom and there's no touching in my bottom. So I know I have maybe a little bit more limitation in hip internal rotation on this left side. Okay. So this again, just a quick test to see, where am I at? Because if your knee is falling to the ground, but you're doing a bunch of pigeon pose or something in yoga, you probably don't need to focus on it as much. All we're doing is hammering into a range that your body doesn't quite need. The other thing is important to remember, if you are restricted in this hip external rotation, yet you're forcing your leg out in front of you for pigeon pose and trying to make that perfect 90-degree angle, you might be putting more rotation at your knee because your hip doesn't quite have that range. So this is why it's so crucial to assess what's happening at the hip so that you're not putting extra tension and pressure where it doesn't need to be. Believe me, I've seen people go into lotus pulling their legs up where they don't have any business doing that because they don't quite have the hip rotation. So this is why assessing and seeing what is happening in your body is really good. Then we can work on it to maybe progress up into those goals. Last one that we're going to do really quick is just a different test. So now no pillows, no blankets. You're going to lie on your back. So I'm just going to kind of talk you through it this way, because if I'm forward, you're literally laying all the way on your back and just holding your leg knee straight up to the ceiling. Okay. But I'm just going to show you propped up a little bit so that you can see what's happening and what we're looking for. So with this leg completely straight up to the ceiling, I'm looking, can I move my leg about 45 degrees actively without any pressure? Can I get that? Mine, again, a little bit restricted, right? Now, can I move it about 30 degrees? So not quite halfway, but almost halfway. If you're like, ooh, I can't even move a little bit, good note. Maybe restricted in hip internal rotation. Again, other leg. Can I get that leg to about 45 degrees? That's halfway between that corner point, right? Or can I get it about 30 degrees? Again, same thing that I saw before. I'm limited in hip internal rotation. What this will look like on your back is you're going to be here, grab a leg, make sure that the arms are straight, and then moving it in as much as you can, moving it out. If you have someone that can video you, this is helpful, or you can kind of look at it and see what's happening. Okay, again, I'll grab the other leg, external, internal. Ooh, look at how restricted. That's a bony endpoint. I'm just kind of running into that rotation. So hopefully you're now becoming more familiar with your hips. If you don't have good rotation, we're going to be limited in how we can deep squat, flexion, bend over, maybe putting too much tension on that back, on those knees. So the links that we have below for those curated programs, whether it's for the low back, whether it's for the knees, whether it's for the hips, all of these programs really help to improve this joint space and this hip range of motion so that you can adequately really get back into that body and improve that range functionally. It's so crucial and important to improving that mobility so we build our foundation so that we can build that strength and make a strong, functional body. Don't forget, if you love what you're learning, I have so much more in stock for you. So hit that subscribe button, check out the other videos I've done in the past, and leave any comments of any suggestions that you have for videos in the future. And I can't wait to help you feel incredible and amazing within your body.